Ross Atkins, my man. This Blue Jays organization, man, they just know how to kick you when you're down.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
My name's Braden Iwasko. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5 Iwasko. Carter First, too, as well on Instagram and TikTok, at Locked On Blue Jays. If you're new here to YouTube, listening anywhere else, make sure you guys do hit that subscribe button. It does help us out a ton. It's free to do so. You might as well. We notice a lot of you guys haven't subscribed yet. So hit that button. It's easy. You might as well. Discord links down in the description. I was going to bring up something about fantasy. I can't remember and I don't care. Time to get into this episode. I don't know. Like, I think we knew what was going to happen here, but this organization might have just fumbled the biggest bag of all time. Like, you have a homegrown talent of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. wanting to play here in Toronto. Fans wanted him back. Organization seemed like they wanted him back. His teammates love him. Everyone around the league loves Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And he wanted to be a Blue Jay for life. Today was an absolute disgraceful job by this organization. They spit in the face of our franchise player. What other organization? Look at the Orioles. Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, those guys will be Orioles for their existence. What are we doing? Like, I am blown away, dude. I'm absolutely livid. And I know a lot of fans are going to say to me, a lot of people, listeners that are going to say to me, you should have known this was coming. I did know it was coming. I was being super optimistic to try to inject some life. But this just shows how disgraceful this organization is to the players, that the only couple guys that have done the work to get this team somewhat within the conversation in some years of playoff runs. Without Bo and without Vlad, this team is nowhere. That's my first reaction, Carter. Go, take it away.
See, the thing with being optimistic about this is, yes, maybe you're a little bit naive being optimistic about this Vladimir Guerrero Jr. extension based off how it's went in the past, based off how this offseason has went. But it is a million times more fun to say, oh, the Toronto Blue Jays are going to be good. Vladdy's going to be a Blue Jay for life. Pete Alonso's going to come here. Alex Bregman's going to come here. Roki Sasaki's going to come here. It is so much more fun to be optimistic about this team rather than just be one of those guys that's like sitting in the corner just being negative. Vladdy's not going to come. Vladdy sucks. Toronto Blue Jays are going to suck. They're not making the playoffs. They're going to be the worst team in the AL East. What is the fun in that as a baseball fan? I don't necessarily understand it. I understand why people are upset about this. We're very upset about it too. We wanted Vladimir Guerrero Jr. since he signed with the Toronto Blue Jays back in 2015 when he was an international signing to stay with the Toronto Blue Jays for a very long time. We figured you have your dad as Vladimir Guerrero Sr. Probably going to be a pretty good baseball player, but again, you could say the same thing for Kevin Biggio. How did that work out? But anyway, sticking to the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. stuff, not exactly ideal. And as soon as I saw this quote, I was more of a pessimist about this. You got a little bit more optimistic about this topic. But as soon as I saw this quote from Hector Gomez last night, it decreased my chances of Vladdy signing to the Toronto Blue Jays by like 75%. Like, as soon as this guy, this whole offseason, he's been throwing the Toronto Blue Jays for an absolute loop, giving us a little bit too much hope and then just having it ripped away from us a very short amount of time later. So Hector Gomez says, source, doesn't say who the source is, classic Hector Gomez, but at the edge of midnight, the talks between the Blue Jays and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. were very active. Both sides seem to be in a position to reach an agreement. This Tuesday could be the long-awaited deadline day. Not saying that for sure it's going to happen, but if you read between the lines, he is alluding to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. obviously signing that extension on Tuesday. And then I see this tweet from Shai Davidi, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Ross Atkins, and Mark Shapiro, each meeting with the media separately this morning. That's usually not a very good sign. You would think if they just had the franchise's largest extension, one of the largest extensions in all of Major League Baseball, They probably come from more like a family orientated state. They probably all present this together. Maybe they let Vladdy post it on his Instagram. Maybe the Toronto Blue Jays break it. But as soon as you see all of the important pieces on the Toronto Blue Jays, whether it's the front office, whether it's the franchise player on your team, not reporting to the media at the exact same time, for me, right there, I had a feeling it was going to be a negative Tuesday, and that's exactly what we got.
Yeah, dude. Hector Gomez, for one, bomb. Bomb. I will flat out say that. The guy has been wrong way more than he's been even remotely correct this offseason. And the worst part about Hector Gomez and all of this is that people believe him because he presents as a reliable source, but he never is. He is wrong 98% of the time. Bomb. You can put Hector Gomez as enemy number one of Locked On Blue Jays. I'm so sick of that guy hearing about him. We bring him up. A while ago, Skylar Peters, I believe, comes on this podcast quite often, sent something in about Hector Gomez, and he did the eye roll or whatever. Yeah, this guy's a complete joke. I don't know. I don't like to get this upset about some rando, but guy's a bum. Moving on, I guess first reactions, you got mine. I'm not thrilled. I'm not happy. I don't think any Blue Jays fan right now is. I called my mom when this happened, and I was like, "Hey, by the way, Vladdy ain't gonna be. Vlad's didn't sign the extension." She goes, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I don't know, man. Fans are gonna lose their minds. Twitter's been crazy. The next part, I guess, all of this. The one other thing I really wanted to hammer home was one point made by Ross Atkins, and I'm gonna save some of my Ross Atkins critique for tomorrow because we got to dive a little bit deeper into some of the stuff that has happened throughout the years. This is more of a first reaction. This is how it goes. He said that they offered Vlad a deal that would have been the biggest in Blue Jays history. Well, that could have been $160 million.
Could have been $150.0001 million.
Because George Springer is the largest contract in Blue Jays history at 5 years, $150 million. That's Ross. What are you talking about? That's a terrible quote. That doesn't mean anything. You're talking like it's this huge deal. That could have that was you guys could have offered him, like Carter said, $150.5 million. An absolute nothing burger of a quote from Ross Atkins. Terrible decision. There's way more quotes that I'll get into tomorrow regarding Ross Atkins, but when it comes to that, it was an absolute joke. I went on to the 680 CJOB sports show last night with Christian O'Mel, had me on, and he let me just vent for a segment. He goes, here's the mic, go. Because it's just ridiculous. There were so many wrong moves regarding Vladimir Guerrero Jr. here. And before, I guess, we continue on Vlad stuff, Christian asked me this one question, and I thought it was hilarious because I was pretty fired up. Then he asked me, can you say one positive thing about the Toronto Blue Jays? And I said, totally. This team had a fairly good offseason. They've done everything I asked for them in this offseason. They've gotten the power bat. I've said this before. Gotten the power bat, got Max Scherzer, which moved Yariel Rodriguez to the bullpen. They shore up the bullpen. They get the platinum glove second baseman in Andrus Gimenez. They made some good moves here. And I won't take that away from them. But if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. isn't here next year, Bo Bichette isn't here next year, where is this franchise? Oh, we got Anthony Santander, who might use an opt-out because he doesn't want to be here and play with a bunch of bums. Fair enough. Because if Vlad and Bo aren't here, who are you building around? I love Davis Schneider, but are you building around Davis Schneider? Are you building around Joey Loperfido? Love those guys. I do. But those guys aren't franchise cornerstones. Carter, you're going to have to, cut my mic eventually at some point. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to go back to that Ross Atkins quote about it. Yeah, if Vladdy would have signed, it would have been the biggest contract in Toronto Blue Jays history. Cue the Pikachu meme, facepalm. Oh, no way. Can you believe that? Vladimir Guerrero Jr. would have got more than $150 million if he signed an extension? Like, there's no way that could have happened. I don't even know why, like, there's so many people that like criticize what Ross Atkins says in these press conferences. And it's because of stuff like this. Like, why even say that? Like, it's so redundant to say to the fan base, especially when this just broke and fans are not already happy with you saying, oh, yeah, we did offer more than $150 million. That's going to make people feel a lot better. It just doesn't really make any sense. And we're going to talk about the future of the Toronto Blue Jays because 2025 is still fairly cemented. And you brought up the Blue Jays having a pretty decent offseason. I think the issue that a lot of people are having is that they weren't necessarily confident in the team before the offseason. Again, made some good additions, but is that enough is like the biggest question that I've seen, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's in our YouTube comments, whether it's on the Blue Jays Instagram comments, wherever I am seeing the Blue Jays fan reactions. I think that is the biggest question regarding the Toronto Blue Jays. But the guy that did break it, obviously, the first one I saw anyway, was Jeff Passan saying that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. would not sign that extension with the Toronto Blue Jays. So this is kind of what I wanted to get into before the last little bit of this first segment. Who do you think was kind of in the wrong here? Do you think Ross Atkins was doing like this low ball thing that we've kind of seen from his career, especially with the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. stuff? Or do you think that Vladdy was just asking for an astronomical amount of money? Because nothing has really come out amongst that. We didn't necessarily think that it was going to happen. But do you think Vladdy was just asking for a ton of money? Or do you think maybe it was somewhere in the middle? Like, what do you think was the issue here with this contract? I guess technically we have our for sure sign that it isn't going to happen, at least for the next couple of weeks. Again, we'll talk about it for tomorrow's episode, what Mark Shapiro and what more Ross Atkins said. But today we're going to try to focus on the more so Vladimir Guerrero Jr. perspective.
What's too much money? What is too much that Vlad's asking for? What are you not willing to pay this man? That's my biggest question. I saw on Twitter some people are saying, "Oh, well, if they offered 12 years for Vlad for $585 million, are you going to be okay with that?" I don't care. Yes. It's not our money. Give the man whatever he wants. The Blue Jays were going to take Shohei Ohtani out of it, whatever. They were going to offer Juan Soto $700 million. And yes, Vlad's not Juan Soto, but he's damn close. There's no amount of money to me that doesn't get this done. I don't understand. The Blue Jays probably offered him $390 million. If I know this organization, that's the offer that they thought was going to win him over. No. So no, this is 100% on management in the front office. And I've said this before. The people that don't think Vlad is worth the money, like, figure it out. Get your head checked. Vlad is going to be the biggest free agent in the market next offseason. Vlad will probably make $600, if not $650 million. The Blue Jays couldn't have offered $500. Maybe they did. Even if it's $550, Carter, I'm fine with it. $600, yeah, you're probably not offering him that. You're probably then at that point just going to say, well, we'll battle it out with other teams, I guess. But I don't believe for a hot second that they offered him $500 million. No chance in hell.
See, that's the number that I want to be at. I think is $500 million would be fair. But from what kind of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. said and what the front office did say, I just wanted to go into two things. So you talked about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. always saying that he wants to stay in Toronto. Still hasn't really deviated from that after these negotiations. This is from Keegan Matheson. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. says that he loves the city of Toronto and the people, but reiterates that it is business. I will do anything and everything I can to stay here because I do want to be here. Then he also went in to say, like this from Jeff Passan as well, when asked if the Blue Jays were close to the contract number Vladimir Guerrero Jr. would have signed, his one-word answer was no. So that leads me to believe that either Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was asking for $600, $650, $700 million. For me, it's $500 million. I would have maybe went to $525 at most at this point in the offseason. I think it's just thinking in terms of the front office, thinking in terms of Rogers. If it's me, I'd pay him $700 million. It's not my money. I don't care. I want Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on the Toronto Blue Jays because that ensures the Toronto Blue Jays are at least a half-decent team to watch for an extended period of time. But if you're the front office, you're knowing Ross Atkins, knowing Mark Shapiro, and just how they kind of run these operations, I feel like I'd have to side with you and go with that lowball offer. But it is interesting to see if they ever do come out with these contract negotiations, if they do come out with a number that was offered to Vladimir Guerrero Jr., because this will kind of pit Toronto Blue Jays fans against either the front office, and that will be I think the last shot that the front office can take here. I think a lot of hostility is already going to the front office. If it comes out that they're absolutely lowballing them, they offered him like $375 million. They're not going to take too kindly to that. But if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. comes, or if it comes out that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was like, hey, if it's not $650 million, $600 million, I am not signing with you guys. I think there might be a little bit of a different discussion going on in the Toronto Blue Jays community.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, I can't see for a hot second that it was the $600 million. I think max it got up to was 550 for Vlad. Coming out of himself, I don't think that he would have said 600 million, because I think he was okay with taking the 500, the 550. I think he would have been okay taking that and staying here. I don't think he's okay taking 385 million, 400 million to stay here, because he knows he could go make probably 600. And people are going to argue that teams won't pay him 600. Teams will pay him 600. He will get 600 this offseason. Maybe 550, but I could almost bet you 600 with how the Juan Soto one went. Carter, you didn't think for a hot second it would get to 700, and he got 765. So teams are going to give it to him. Whose decision was it? How much did they lowball him? Did Vlad think he was worth too much? We'll probably never know. But I've seen how this front office has worked before, and I can almost guarantee you, I don't know that they crossed 425 million. No shot.
Oh yeah, as the saying goes, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me a million times, probably shame on you. Like, I mean, when you look at what, again, the front office has done, when you look at just recent history, especially regarding the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. extension talks, it hasn't really gone in the front office's favor. And then especially with the Vladdy quote that we did get is that, I'm here, we didn't sign an agreement. Now they're going to have to compete with 29 other teams next free agency. Not exactly what you want to hear, obviously, for the future. But, I mean, I guess one smallest silver lining of all time is that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is here for this season. Bichette is here for this season. This team on paper looks like it is a lot better than it was last season. We have a ton more to get into. There's a ton more Vladdy quotes you want to get into. Kind of want to compare Vladdy to the Juan Soto discussions, the Shohei Ohtani discussions, because that is a big narrative going on right now, is that if you're going to pay these guys $700 million, $600 million, whatever it is, why can't you fork that over to Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? We're going to break all that stuff down on this podcast coming up. Today's episode is sponsored by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into one good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of proteins, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats, keep you feeling fuller for longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's a perfect grab and go snack for busy days when I'm snacking at my desk on a road trip or just need a quick protein boost. That's always my to-go snack. It's very convenient, and if you are in a pinch, need a quick snack, I tend to leave myself little to no time, a lot of the time, where I need to get a satiating meal. So Wonderful Pistachios, perfect substitution if I kind of run out of that time. Quick grab-and-go snack, and it can keep me feeling satiated, at least tide me over until I can get that full meal that I was looking for. Another nice factor with Wonderful Pistachios is that they are a complete protein, and they provide all the 9 essential amino acids. Whether you're running behind between meetings or dropping off the kids, Wonderful Pistachios are a snack that works as hard as you do. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That's wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
So, Carter, as we continue on talking about Vlad, bit of a longer opening than we sort of planned, but thoughts, feelings, everything like that out on the table. We want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think? I mean, we've read on Twitter, we've been all over Instagram and everything as well, trying to keep up to date with everything and how the fan base is taking this, probably as well as we are. But Carter, we got a lot more quotes, a lot more stuff to get into that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. brought up, and we got to talk about the Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani of it all as well. Just how those factored into sort of the decision that came to be, especially on Vlad's end too. How does he compare himself, right?
Oh, absolutely we do. So that is going to be a massive discussion going on for this season, which kind of sucks in the big picture of things because even the Toronto Blue Jays are very good this season. It's all the narrative's just going to be, oh, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is not here. They're going to have to re-sign Vladimir Guerrero Jr. They're going to have to re-sign Bichette. So in that sense, that is one of the things that definitely sucks for us, especially as Toronto Blue Jays fans and obviously as podcast hosts as well. That is going to be a comment that we are going to see all season long. We're going to have to be okay with that. Obviously, we want Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to be here, and the front office and company does have to be held accountable. Again, would be nice if we had a little bit more information about kind of how the processes went down, but I mean, it's baseball. We have seen the Ross Atkins quote that said, oh, I don't know if there's any benefit to us releasing some of these quotes, some of these negotiation tactics. I feel like, again, with the Ross Atkins saying that, from based off what we have seen, that probably means that the number was a little bit lower than he wanted, or probably a lot lower, like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. said, and he doesn't necessarily want to give that up because he knows that it's his butt on the line. But I kind of, while we're on the negative talk, I wanted to add the one zinger from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. that kind of hit me the most, which I mean, I don't necessarily like hold him accountable for saying this because of how bad the team was last season. And obviously we talked about this in the podcast about how much a winning culture does bring to a Toronto Blue Jays team, a baseball team, an AL East team, any single sports team in general. They want to win baseball games. But this from Rob Longley, when asked what he will be looking for in free agency, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had one more zinger, and he said a winning team. So based off that is kind of what I wanted to go into. How much do you think the Blue Jays record, just how successful the Toronto Blue Jays are in 2025, kind of contributes to this notion that maybe the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has more incentive to return to the Toronto Blue Jays in 2026?
Oh, it's everything. It's everything. Max Scherzer said it. He said winning fixes a lot of problems. And he's 100% right. We would be looking at this organization very differently if they would have done something into the playoff runs they had. And probably if they would have made the playoffs last season, these conversations probably go a little bit better. Now, is that Vlad's fault? Absolutely not. That the team wasn't very good last year. He did almost everything he could have. And again, there'll be some people that will argue that because he wasn't the best at the very start of the season, but the guy was amazing. So no, absolutely, winning will make a difference going into the 2025-2026 offseason. I mean, this is a team that has been sort of up and down. You think they're good one year, the next year they're terrible. You think they're good the next year, and then they're terrible again. It's a very confusing team, and I think Vlad knows now that he wants to play here, but he's not going to waste his career. And don't get me wrong, I think all the moves that were made this offseason go into the fact that they want to win, that they want to be a successful team. Again, this was a good offseason. Obviously, barring the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. news, but it was a good offseason. I don't think we can be upset about it. And I think that if this team does do well, it gives way more incentive to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. maybe taking a slight bit of a discount with this Toronto Blue Jays team, or at least giving them the benefit of maybe the ability to match. That's all you can ask for at this point. The guy, the organization, Vlad, they've all made sort of their beds. Now we just gotta lie there and hope that it doesn't bite us. But yeah, winning helps, man. There's nothing else I can say on that. It makes me feel a lot better. I'll tell you that for free.
Well, absolutely. It's just a lot more fun, obviously, to watch a winning baseball team than a losing baseball team. And we've said this before about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Why would you want to sign your prime away to a team that, again, might not even be competitive until you're 33, 34, maybe 35 years old? Obviously, like you said, Max Scherzer has said it. Winning changes everything. Winning completely can revamp an organization. And honestly, before 2024, I didn't really think this would be as big of an issue that we have had at this point. But with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., maybe before the winning wasn't necessarily a necessity. I think at this point, if you don't have a winning season, if you don't make the playoffs, kiss Vladdy goodbye, kiss Bichette goodbye. And then we look at a team in 2027 that's not going to have Kevin Gausman, not going to have Chris Bassitt, not going to have Vladdy, not going to have Bo, might not have Alejandro Kirk. Like there's, again, you can go farther and farther and farther down the list. And it goes to those guys that you were talking about. Is like, as much as we might love Joey Lopervito, the Will Wagners, again, like your maybe Jonathan Colossi or Alan Roden, whoever it is, David Schneider, are these guys going to be Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? Are these guys going to be Bo Bichette? Are these guys going to mold into the guys that are going to be the cornerstones of your franchise? One can hope, obviously. You want to see all of these prospects, all these younger guys flourish into major league talent. You want to see them be all-stars. You want to see them have the best MLB careers they can possibly have. But if you're looking at all of these established players right now and just the lack of, it almost seems like lack of need, the lack of urgency to sign some of these players, it doesn't really leave a good taste in your mouth when you think about the Toronto Blue Jays future.
No, and I mean, who's Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? No one is. So you could go to any other organization, you won't find another Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Like that's where this all goes back to. They don't make players like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. every second, third, fourth, or even fifth year. Look at Jackson Holiday. Thought he was going to be unbelievable.
He still
the
can
kid's
be.
fine. He still can be, but he's not like when Vlad was in there, you saw the potential. As soon as he made it to the big leagues, you saw the potential. And he could still be good, but he's not going to be Vladimir Guerrero Jr. That's what I mean. You talk about first round picks. You talk about Gunnar Henderson, great player, not Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Really, the comparison right now, if you're talking about any players in the league, who's above him for you? Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Bobby Witt Jr. There's a couple more you can go down the list. There aren't that many players. There aren't enough quality superstars for every baseball team. You have one in your house, homegrown, and you don't do anything with them. Good luck. And this is where I'm gonna leave my thoughts here a little bit. If they do a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. bobblehead night this year, I'm gonna lose my mind, because that is the biggest crock of all time. That's gonna be so funny, watching them roll it and try to pump it up. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. bobblehead, get him before he leaves. It's gonna be unreal.
Yeah, almost be like kissing him goodbye in a sense, just remembering the good old times where we did have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on the Toronto Blue Jays. I still want to go into the Juan Soto and Shohei Ohtani stuff, but we are going to take another short break. Again, like Braden said, we took that first segment a little bit longer, like in classic Locked On Blue Jays fashion. So we still have a bunch more to talk about the future of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. We want to compare him to Juan Soto and Shohei Ohtani. Probably going to start the next segment like that. So just hang around until then. We'll be at you with that stuff coming up. Today's episode is also sponsored by Select Quote. In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Olympics. Same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from Select Quote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's financial future secure. Select Quote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets Select Quote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for the same-day coverage of up to $5 million. No medical exam required. The thing about life insurance is that you never think you need it until you do need it. Obviously, things can happen. Unforeseen circumstances can happen. It's always much better to have some coverage, to have a backup plan regarding these things, because if it does happen to you, you don't want to be kind of hung out to dry like the Toronto Blue Jays are doing to Vladimir Guerrero Jr., it seems. But you can get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/locked-on. Go to selectquote.com/locked-on today to get started. That's selectquote.com/locked-on. Select Quote. They shop, you save.
All right. We got to talk about it. Shohei Ohtani, Juan Soto. The deals that I think, looking back, I think it makes this so much more brutal for fans, because you know what they were going to offer both of those guys, and you don't see them, like I said in the beginning, you don't see them offer their homegrown talent any kind of money, probably close. They probably offered it, if not half of what they offered Juan Soto. It's probably right around there, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's a little bit ridiculous. I think when you talk about Shohei Ohtani and you compare him to Juan Soto and Vladimir Guerrero Jr., you're not even talking in the same discussion anymore.
No, I agree.
I think Shohei Ohtani is significantly more important to a team, like obviously compared to Juan Soto and Vladimir Guerrero Jr., because you don't see Vladimir Guerrero Jr. going up on the mound and throwing 97, 98. No. It's just a completely different factor. Shohei Ohtani, like I said, I think it was on the last episode, he's going to be the NL MVP for probably the next 3, 4, 5 seasons, barring an injury. Again, knock on wood, you don't want to see, obviously, those superstars go down with an injury. You don't want to see any player go down with an injury. When you regard to Juan Soto, I've always been on this fence that I don't want Juan Soto for $765 million either. I think that is a crazy overpay for a guy like Juan Soto when you look like Shohei Ohtani. If you would have invested that $700 million, probably would have got Roki Sasaki, probably would have got a bunch of different free agents, probably wouldn't have been a bad baseball team in 2024. When you look at Juan Soto, again, there's more incentive to sign Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but Steve Cohen actually made a pretty good point on this, and it's how many massive, like 400, 500, $600 million contracts can you really have on a baseball team? You look at Steve Cohen, the richest owner in all of baseball, maybe using this as a little bit of a ploy, but you can kind of understand that same thing for the Toronto Blue Jays. But again, when you talk about the Toronto Blue Jays, it's a little bit different because it's George Springer being the biggest contract in franchise history compared to that Juan Soto contract, obviously multiple other contracts. So if you look at, I think it's more of a discussion to look at Juan Soto and compare him to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. than it is to compare Shohei Ohtani, because with Shohei Ohtani, you probably could have went up to $850, $900 million, and that might still pay dividends in the long run. When you look at Vladdy and Juan Soto's stats, we've broken them down before. Juan Soto, he is better than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I think we could put our Jays bias aside from that. If you guys are watching this podcast, just watch baseball in general. Juan Soto is a better player than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. However, saying that, Juan Soto did get $765 million. Whether I think that's an overpay, whether you think that's an overpay, that is fact. That is what happened in the MLB. So when you're regarding Vladimir Guerrero Jr., is he as good as Juan Soto? No, but like you said, he's pretty close. I would say he's probably, if I had to put a percentage on, he's like 80, 85% of what Juan Soto is. If you're looking at that from a contract, again, not a massive math guy, but that's probably around $600 million. So if you're really going to break it down, it really depends on how this franchise does view Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And I think we kind of saw that from the Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins quotes earlier this offseason, not saying that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is this cornerstone player, is a franchise player. He is not a superstar in this league. They wouldn't go out and say that. And I think that kind of shows how they have valued Vladimir Guerrero Jr. during all of these contract extension talks.
Yeah, man. I like, that's exactly. And you brought it up when those comments were released by those guys. They didn't say a word about how good Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was. Yes, good player. Not, he's not a superstar. He's not Shohei Ohtani. And you're 100% right. Going back to Shohei Ohtani stuff, Shohei Ohtani also brings in a whole nother nation of fans to watch your team. That pays for it in itself, not even talking about, some of the other guys he brings over.
He's the most marketable athlete probably in sports right now.
Absolutely. Yes. So you're right. It's not fair to compare those two guys. Juan Soto, for sure. And you hit the nail on the head. He's about 80, 85%, if not a slightly bit more, but you can argue. It's terrible. It's terrible how this franchise and this organization values Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And I mean, again, I could repeat the same stuff I just talked about in the last few segments, that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Now you can say, is he worth this? Is he worth that? It doesn't matter anymore. Money is meaningless right now. It's in the wind because people are getting paid out of control. You look at Alex Bregman getting paid $40 million. You're telling me that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. isn't worth more than Alex Bregman? I don't know. That's crazy. That's craziness to understand how much of a future Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has. Now, you brought up Cohen as well, who I think is a very fair quote. That is a very fair reaction because you can't sign a ton of these guys. You can't. The Dodgers haven't. As many contracts they have, it's not a ton of 10, 12-year deals worth $700 million. No team can do that. That is a crazy amount of money. The fact is that the Blue Jays don't have one of those, and they never have. Not even close. This would have been their time to lock him up and get him and say, this is our guy, build around him. This shows you a path to the future for the next 10 years. It probably would have secured Ross Atkins' job for the next bunch of years because he's the guy that got Vladimir Guerrero Jr. If he loses out on that, I don't know how he still has a job. I don't know how you let your franchise player walk and still have a job. Like, should I put on a suit? Like, should I go down there? Like, I might have to. Because somebody has to make some sense of what's going on here. If it is all true that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. wanted $450 million, you said it yourself that he's probably in that $600 million range if you can compare him to Juan Soto. If his ask was $450 million and one day we find that out and they offer him $390 million, I don't know. I don't know. And Ross Atkins still has a job. I just don't understand. I won't ever understand. And this is not just Ross Atkins. And as much as we all want to say that, this is definitely not just Ross Atkins. It's Mark Shapiro. It is Ed Rogers. It is all these people within this organization that obviously sat down in a room together and valued Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And so this is the amount we're willing to spend right now to secure Vladimir Guerrero Jr. a long time. If not, we can figure it out. So it is a lot of people's faults, but Ross Atkins is the man that should be making these things happen. But we've seen it with John Schneider. There are more cooks in the kitchen than there should be.
And that's a big point that I wanted to get into. I was going to save it for last episode or the next episode, but you think that there is a $500 million offer on the table and Rogers Media is not going to be involved? You think that's just going to be a Ross Atkins thing? Obviously not. I did also go in. I did get the percentages of what Vladdy's contract would look like in terms of Juan Soto. So if you think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is 75% of the player that Juan Soto is, I think that's a relatively fair assessment, maybe a little bit below. That's $573.75 million. If you look at 80% of that, that is $612 million. So looking at that right there, if you're going to compare it to Juan Soto, again, besides the overpaying, I think Juan Soto was massively overpaid. But that's not the point anymore. If you're an NFL fan, Christian Kirk was massively overpaid at the wide receiver position, and that set precedent for every other wide receiver to sign after him. So if you're going to blame anyone, I guess blame Steve Cohen and blame Juan Soto negotiations for these Vladimir Guerrero Jr. numbers. If they wanted to pay him $350, $400 million, they probably should have did that before this Juan Soto signing was coming. You knew it was going to come as soon as you got traded to the New York Yankees. There was no extension talks that offseason. You knew this was going to be a problem, and they decided to do absolutely nothing about it. There's one more thing I do want to go into before we do end off this episode, and it's a quote, this from Keegan Matheson, but it's from John Schneider. But John Schneider is disappointed with the Vladdy outcome, but says the team would be doing itself a disservice to look beyond tomorrow and the 2025 season. I think that is the biggest thing that we are going to have to look at. Is that regarding the Toronto Blue Jays, of course, this is going to suck for the 2026 off or the 2025 offseason. It's going to suck probably for the 2026 season, but at the end of the day, they are in spring training camp now. They are doing their routines. They are getting ready for spring training and the 2025 MLB season. At some point, you're going to have to put this kind of stuff aside as much as it might still be a distraction. You're going to have to focus on this year, especially if you're Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Now you're betting on yourself. You're going to have a good season if you want to get that bag in the next offseason.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Vlad put it out of his mind pretty quickly because, man, he hit a ding off Yariel Rodriguez today, or yesterday, I guess it would be. So the guy's already put it out of his mind. He's already working, and, he's going to secure that bag for himself. So good for him. The boys are looking good. We saw a couple players have at bats today, and, man, they look in good shape. Like I said, going into this year, Vlad, man, does he ever look ready to go. If you saw him and working out in the gym and getting in some ABs and stuff like that, man, he looks like he is cooking. I am so excited for this spring training. I'm so excited for this season because I feel like this team now has something to prove, something to play for. And if you're fans of the Four Nation Face-Off, it's what players got something to play for. It's man, it can be exciting.
I got one more spin zone to end this episode. Ross Atkins, he purposely did not sign Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because what happens when players are in their career years? Or their contract years, they usually have those career years. So Ross Atkins knew his butt was going to be on the line. The Toronto Blue Jays didn't have a good season here. He's going to rely on Bichette. He's going to rely on Vladimir Guerrero Jr. They're in contract years. They got to have career years. They're going to save his butt at the end of the season. They're both going to sign extensions. He had the willing to go to up to $800 million. He just didn't want to do that for the betterment of the 2025 Toronto Blue Jays. I'm going to leave it at that.
Fair enough. See you guys tomorrow. We're going to talk some more about Ross Atkins, Mark Shapiro, John Schneider, what the future holds. Because yes, today was reactions, but we're going to take a day. We're going to collect our thoughts and think about, okay, now what is the plan? How does this organization go about everything following this? What does the offseason look like? We're going to get into all that and still obviously spring training updates because those are coming out as well now. And we're going to get to see these guys in action. So we're going to have all that and more for you guys coming up on tomorrow's episode. So make sure you guys tune in, hit that subscribe button if you're still sticking around.